the model, which is kind of I-key rigged. And what we're going to do now is just position it onto our model. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to position it onto the flat bit here on my model, but it doesn't matter if it's angled. And I'm going to press, I'm going to turn off the donut briefly, and I'm going to grab everything and then just press G. Everything, including the bones, the objects, and the IK handle is empty. And now I'm going to position it. So I'm going to rotate it 90 and then press, I'm going to scale it down. I think it's a bit big. So something like that. Press G. And just get it as close as you can. That looks okay for me. Just going to move it in a bit. And that will do. And that's why it's quite important that you get this designed right, because it will look a bit weird if you don't get it done properly. So that looks okay. And this is basically ready to go. Okay, so this is good. The problem is that if I take this object and move it around, this doesn't come with it. So I need to kind of figure that one out. So rather than grabbing all of this, which is quite complicated, I'm going to add a circle. And I'm going to stick it up here. And this is going to be a control object. And these are used quite a lot in animation. It just makes life a bit easier. I'm going to grab all of these. So every object in there. I'm going to shift, select that one, Control P, and I'm going to parent them to the object. So when I take this and move it, everything's connected. Next, I'm going to take this object and parent it to this. And then finally, I'm going to take the bone system and I'm going to parent that to that as well. Right. So now when I move this, the object moves and this moves and the bone system moves, but it leaves the IK handle there, which is great. Right, next thing, I just want to do a final position of this. So this, what we want to do is we want to move this so it's like down here, so that it's supporting our creature. So kind of around here. And then what it's going to do is that this is going to kind of walk like this, it's going to go up like that, and then down like that, and it's going to keep doing that kind of thing. So we might as well create one animation loop of that, and then we can kind of put that into, we can copy that across to all of the other legs and it will be easier. The other thing to take note is that this here is the beginning of the IK system and this is the end. If we cross this line, some strange stuff is going to happen. I'll show you that. So we need to kind of, because it can't figure out what way to bend the leg. So we need to make sure that we don't go beyond that. So if we grab this and we go up here, and now we're getting to the edge, and then it flips because it doesn't know what way to bend the leg. So we need to make sure that we will stay below that. And that needs to be a kind of a pretty hard rule. So I'm going to get this like upright, and I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm going to press Control A. All transforms to deltas, so it zeroes everything out. And now we're good to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a we're going to create a curve for this to follow. We could animate it. I've got a keyframe here. We could animate it. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. We could take this and then we could move that along and then we could animate it. And so we'll try that. So what we're going to do is location. So insert location and then we go. And it's a bit complicated and I'm not going to bother. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add a curve. And so we're going to find a circle and we're going to scale that up. And we're going to rotate that in this direction, so 90. And then we're going to grab that and we're going to move that along here. And this is going to be our animation curve. We'll put it in the middle there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to flatten this off. So we're going to delete this. And so now what we've got is this. And if we take this here and we move it, but if we take this one and move it, then we're going to get like a hard corner here. It's going to go a bit crazy, but that's all right. grab this one, press G to create like a hard edge, because we want this to be flat here. And then we can delete this vertice as well. So now what we've got is we've got this kind of object. Yeah. And if we grab this, we can kind of we can play around with this curve. And what we want to do is we want the leg to kind of go raise up, and then come down, and then go across the floor, raise up, go down, across the floor, etc. And we're going to take this, and I'll just scale it down, maybe around that. So what we're going to do is use a constraint. So this is, we're going to find here, we've got these things called constraints, and what we're going to do is follow a path. And this is going to follow this path. And so we're going to just use the eyedropper, and we're going to follow that. And you can see it's gone a bit crazy because it needs to know where 0 is. And so we're just going to move that there. And now when we do this, you can see that it's doing that. It's going a bit crazy, but why is it going crazy? Because this is not centered. And so we need to make sure, like, this needs to be like, you can see that there's some mad pivot points going on, and that's kind of a problem. So let's take that constraint off. And we're going to take this and move it back. And then we're going to go back here. And you can see that this has gone like absolutely mental. So we are going to 0 that. Okay. So the reason is because look at this. This has kind of gone crazy. So I'm going to go Control A, all transform. So then this is now, this is not 0. This is 0 point. So now we're going to go here, and we're going to go follow path. This. We're still going to go crazy, but we're going to move that there. And now this works. And so we can use this offset. And this is not working. Why is it not working? Because it is using that point as the end point. Yeah, there we go. All right. So that blue line is how far away it is from the origin. So now this is working basically. So it raises its leg up, puts it down. And the great thing about this is that we can take this, and we can, if this is too high, we can fiddle around with it, and the thing still works. So now that's our walk cycle, and I'm just going to move this along. And you can see it all works, and it's kind of working pretty well. Okay, so we go here, and we can animate this. This is going to be our animation tool. So we're going to put this to 0. And that's going to be our start point. And we're going to put in a keyframe. And then we're going to go to 20. And we're going to make this go to 100, because that's the end of it. And now we'll put in a keyframe. And what will happen is that this will go like this. And we've got like a bit of animation. The problem is that this needs to loop. So what we're going to do is grab onto this last keyframe, right click, and we're going to get like loads of these kind of options, which are a bit kind of crazy, and none of them are really going to help us, unfortunately. So we need to go into something called the graph editor, and here is our we're just going to frame all, and you can see our keyframe here. And what we're going to do is grab this last keyframe, and in key we're going to go to add curve modifier and go to cycles, and this is going to cycle this forever. Okay, so we'll go back to the timeline, which is there, and now this is going to do a walk cycle. So when we press play, it's now walking. Okay, so now what do we do with it? Okay, well, now we've got like an even more complicated kind of system, because we've got this moves here, and we've got this system, and if we move it around, you can see, you know, it still works and everything, as long as the IK still works, then it's all going to work. So what we're going to do now is duplicate this. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. So we're going to take this, we're going to take all of this system, including the curve, and we're going to go to the top, and what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it. So we're going to duplicate it and then rotate it 72 degrees. Okay, and we're going to move that to here. Now, I know you're looking at this and kind of going, this has gone a bit mental, what the hell has happened? Well, you can see this has gone off. This is, if you remember our start point was there, and we need to make that happen again. So we're going to move that back to the start point of this particular thing. And now when we press play, you can see that it's kind of doing its thing. So that's working. We're going to get back to these walk cycles in a minute. Right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab this, all of the objects, and I'll go to the top. I'm going to duplicate, rotate, minus 72 degrees. Yours is going to be different because you might have, 6 sides or 8 sides or something like that. We go here, we've got the same problem. See here that the IK has moved from the base of the animation curve. And all we're doing is just repositioning that there. And now we will test it just to see. All good. And now we're going to do that again. So I'm just going to grab all of this and I'm going to duplicate it and rotate minus 72 degrees. And I'm going to move that there. Again, our IK is gone and we move that not like that. I'm going to move that to there, so to the end of the curve, try and get it pretty close, and then I'm going to do it a final time. So Shift D, rotate minus 72 degrees, and then I'm going to move that into place as close as, and then I'm going to grab my animation curve, my IK, and I'm going to move it back to the tip of the animation curve. And now when we go back here and we press play, everything is working. It's not working very well though, and the reason is because what we want is we want all of these pointing in the same direction. So we want this, we want that kind of like this way, if you see what I mean. And then if that sort of makes sense, we want that to be like that, because what we want to do is we want to have that kind of working that way. Yeah. So we're going to get onto offsets in a minute. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this one, we're going to go object, set origin to geometry, and then we're going to rotate this one around as well, just so it's pointing in that direction. Take that one, object, set origin to your geometry, we're going to rotate it around. I should have set origin to geometry on the first time. And then we're going to do the last one. Where is it? Over here. Object, set origin to geometry, and then we're going to rotate that round like that. Okay, so what's happening now? So when we go back to the beginning, they're all going at the same time. Okay, and that's okay, but if they all the legs move at the same time, then we're going to get some problems. We're also going to make sure that our system still works. So when we move this up and down, we can see that we've got a full rig that's working and it's dynamic, and that's all good. So what we're going to do is we want to have a couple on the ground. So we want to have probably that one, this one, and this one, and on the ground, 3 on the ground, maybe, I don't know. I don't know anything about creatures. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take, so I'm going to take this one and this one, and they both got animation because we've selected both. I'm going to offset that by 10. So I'm just dragging it. So now you can see that they're kind of all moving kind of slightly differently. So when we press play, that looks better. So now they're kind of walking across. And if you don't like the curves, or if you want to make them tighter, you can go to the top and you can move this curve. That will just change, that will make one leg move very differently to the other. So you can see that this one is like got a different feel to it. And I think it's a good idea to take these and fiddle with them a little bit to give them a little bit more character. So you can see that the legs are slightly differently. Okay, so it's quite a lot to take in, and it's probably enough. And then we'll get on to kind of like animating this moving across and also doing a final rig. Okay, shall I do, oh no, I'll do the final rig now because that's probably going to be easier. Right, I'm going to add another circle. We'll make this one pretty big, and we'll bring that to the top. And I am going to, and what we're going to do is, actually I'm going to delete that, I'm going to add a circle and I'm going to give it 4 sides. And this is going to be our master control rig. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to parent that to that, Control P, parent. And you're probably thinking, why? Because now we've just moved that rig to there. Well, we're also going to take this and this and this and this and this and this and this. Don't forget any. And this. And we're going to Control P, parent that to the object. And now when we take this and move it, we can move all of the objects at the same time, but this is moving Y. Because we need to move this. It's moving these in relative